watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the May 8th meeting for the Long Beach Building Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is the Long Beach Building Commission meeting for May 9th, 2025. We'll call the meeting to order at 1:06. First order of business is roll call. Very well. Yeah, it's Bob LeMay. Here. Anita Remages.
Present.
Ken Klausner. Here. Joy Schmidt.
Here.
Pete Bibles.
Here.
Carter. Here. First order of business is approval of the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'd move to approve. I'll second.
Anita, or Joy and Anita, any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now, Commissioners report. We had 36 in, that says January, but it's actually April. We had 36 permits in April with construction costs of $2,336,895, which generated permit fees of $22,922. We had no significant MS4 issues. I'm sorry, any discussion or questions on the Commissioner's report? Not, we'll move into old business. We had no significant situations in the MS4 situation. Our annual report was filed and accepted. The coastal resiliency groups, we've heard nothing back from the DNR and the Natural River Ag Watermark delineation, and there is still no time frame for that. Under old business, number 9 is 2207 Chastleton. And I know, Bob, you had asked last meeting about a 10-day letter that was to go out. I talked to Chris just briefly about it yesterday. There has not, that property submitted a new permit yesterday for, I think it was yesterday, no, Bonner's not here. I think it was yesterday for a new septic, and we will, I'll get with Chris and we'll get something sent out, because that we couldn't even consider the permit until the fines are paid.
Well, the 10-day letter hasn't been sent yet?
No, it is not.
Well, we need to send that because those fines are daily, but I don't think we should start accumulating fines until the 10-day letter is sent.
Right. There's sending copies as well. So yeah, we talked yesterday after the other meeting. So.
Next up is permit number 97, which is 2226 Oriole Trail. And that permit is to bring the property into 35% compliance with 35% coverage compliance. I'll bring that drawing up. That drawing was submitted online.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
$7,500 for that. Every day I do that.
Just go that way. So, why isn't this sure? So this property had two permits. It had a permit for interior construction, and then there was a permit for the landscaping. Just to refresh everybody's memory. So landscaping was started and it was done incorrectly. It was done actually over the setbacks, so they had to correct that. And when everything was done, coverage was more than 35% allowed. So this drawing is a proposal to rectify that and bring the property into 35% coverage.
Larry, are all the colored areas, that's all gonna be removed?
The green areas, so the blue, let's start at the top, Joy. The blue area is being removed completely. The green areas are either being removed or reduced to meet coverage.
And the fire pit's coming off?
It looks like the fire pit is gonna stay in the flagstone.
Zero fire pit.
But that's, it looks like it says
Right,
current and then it says proposed, which is 0, which is a brand new fire pit.
right. They're taking it out.
Okay.
They're taking the fire pit out
Yes.
because it's white in the middle. So it kind of makes it look like it's not changing.
I'll clarify that, but
So fire pit's being taken out of the whole replacing the fire pit, correct?
that's correct. The areas,
Zero and the square area for that equals.
it's 219 square feet is what they're removing. And this, so if, I'll show you down here, you probably can't see it, maybe if I blow it up a little bit.
I don't know. This is green? I'm colorful. Oh, is that green? This is green.
I don't know why this isn't showing up on the, oh, there it is. So in the blue, the fire pit area is 219 square feet and that is being removed. The orange area, now I'll go back over to that. The orange area next to the fire pit is being removed and the patio in front of, I don't really know what that is. I think it might be a deck that's being removed.
There's all stone steppers back there, so I think what they're trying to do is just remove some of the stone steps that are there. Just because, I mean, I've been there, I go by there a lot, and that's what it looked like to me when I looked at it yesterday. They're just reducing that from,
Right, right now, it looks like the concrete walks to the drive, which is on the east side or the right side of that drawing that is in green, was 909 square feet. They're reducing it to 290 square feet. The driveway pavers, they're taking out. And the flagstone steps going back in. I have another drawing of that. I'll bring it up. That they submitted. Instead of the concrete, the green areas here on the east side, they're proposing to put flagstone walkway. It's 176. Let me see if I can bring that up. So this area is concrete now, and they're taking that out and putting these flagstone steps in. They're narrowing the driveway and taking out the fire pit. Although it looks like they've got, I don't know what this is. I don't know if that's flagstone.
I think that's flagstone, because they have their pattern. Yeah, that's the flagstone. In front of the, like, it's from the bushes on the neighbor's side and the bushes, so the flagstone is like a path to that pattern, tiles that are set in there.
Well, doesn't the fact that they're leaving that flagstone in suggest that they are planning on hanging on that fire pit? Otherwise, what would be the point of that?
Right. All right, I'll have to clarify this. I don't, this just came yesterday, this color drawing. I had asked for, we had asked for, they submitted the drawing that's not the survey, and I had asked that they submit it on the survey because this drawing.
And they had plenty of time to do this before our deadline, right?
Yeah, they submitted this drawing.
Yes, sir.
I asked them to do this earlier. I don't know if it was last week or earlier this week. This is the drawing they submitted, but you can't, this isn't a survey. So I said, you need to put that on the survey, which is what the one that was actually on the survey was submitted. So I will, I'll double check these.
And with the diminution in the size of the driveway, they would have parking for 3 cars.
No, I'd have to measure that.
Then that's going to be a problem.
Okay, and they got flagstone is coverage,
Yes,
parking. As Bob said, it's not going to be. Additional issue about parking is that you can see on Oriole Trail, there's right on Oriole Trail, next to the green, just to the left of that green, is a gravel area. They built that area without any berm. They constructed that. So that was construction. We asked for several times, where is the septic system? And we're not, everyone's got some vague response. But there are septic rules that preclude construction for the next number of things. Yeah. They've got to be, they have to tell us where that is and scope it.
okay,
There is, and we have a stop work program issue, and for the last week, they have been constructing, and today are out there applying. You know, so they're doing eaves, they're doing roof work, they're doing siding, doing
They're doing siding and they're doing roofing.
right. Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
And do they have permits for any of that, those stuff?
that, when that permit was submitted, I didn't bring it before the building commission because it was a re-side and windows. I think a couple of windows and re-side. I'm not sure about the roofing, but I issued that permit when it came in because it was not an increase in square footage on the lot. I didn't think until Pete brought it up when we met last week. I didn't consider that they were still in a situation with the coverage. So that was my mistake issuing that permit.
Well, I think we should issue a stop work order until all this stuff comes out. We've wasted time, money, anything you can think of. I'm trying to get them to, you know. This has to be, I guess, the fifth iteration of these drawings that we've seen. Pulling this out, pulling that out, and nothing has happened, done nothing. And now we got more things. So now, to me, this is a little for me, because in general, what happens, we have many permits come through. 95% of those permits come through when people listen to the permits, they listen to our recommendations, they do something. 5% of the applicants come in and they do this kind of stuff and hope for, and it's worked in several cases where we have basically forgotten what the rules are, just let them go. My feeling, and once again, it's a very limited number of people. And basically, we're punishing the good people and letting the ones that are the violators sneak through on this kind of stuff. When we stop work order, in my opinion, everything stops. That's the way it is written in the ordinances. Everything should stop until they resolve. I'm open for comments.
I'll make a motion to issue an absolute stop work order.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Bob to issue a stop work order. Seconded by Pete. Any discussion?
Are there two different, permits, one for the flat roof and one for the building?
There's actually 3 permits. Again, there was a permit for the interior work through the house. Then there was a permit for the landscaping. And then there was a permit for siding and windows. And somebody said that they're doing roofing. I haven't seen it.
They're almost done with the roof, I mean, they're almost done with the siding.
So what's in contention then is the coverage issue with the plat. So really the landscaping permit is an issue that should be based on what is settled. That the other people that's not right.
Well, when a stop work order is issued, the stop work order is for the project, the entire property. And that's what Bob's motion is to that.
That eliminate just to the one permit.
This has been going on for a year, and I think these folks have been ignoring us. I think it's time to take definitive action.
They did, Larry, just for your information, on April 30th, I did text Honor about, that's when they started the work on the houses, and I noticed they were starting to tear off the siding. But I never followed up, I just said just the 2226 have a permit to do this work. And I think she was out of town, and part of it is, I guess I should, reach out to you and Carter, but, so that's when they started the work and they're about finishing. So I apologize for not.
Well, that was a mistake on my part for
Well,
issuing the permit without considering the problem with the coverage.
yeah, I apologize, I didn't.
It's all right. It's nobody's fault. Okay, any other discussion?
Well, I'm going to reiterate here this piece of additional parking that they created to the left of the existing driveway. That was done without,
How long ago was that, Pete?
10 months, I don't know, sometimes.
And is that being included in the coverage?
It has to be, and look at where it's located, it basically has, that parking is utilizing, town right.
Yeah, it looks like it's mostly in the right of way.
Right. So they added that little piece there, and so that is not eligible to satisfy the 3 parking spaces that the property has to have.
Really, this is almost looking to me like there is no way they're gonna get to coverage. So we actually are doing them a favor starting them to stop, because all they're doing is adding to their expenses. And in the end, they're gonna end up with a place that no one's gonna be able to live in.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll just bring up one thing that the water owns a dam already. Lakeshore, view protection.
Can you use your, we can't hear down here.
Okay, the view protector,
Hold on, Pete. So put you in.
okay, the view protection ordinance, when this property was approved in the first place, I want to make everybody aware, and I don't want to bring it up on this one because I have to bring it up. But the view protection ordinance covers the view of not only Lake Michigan, which we rigorously enforced, and also golf course. And that restriction, if everybody wants to go back and read it, it's not the clearest ordinance in the world, but it basically includes building only out to a certain area, 106. So the view protection ordinance satisfies, it applies in this property. But it's already done, so I'm not going to raise any more issues around it. But in future, everybody needs to be aware of that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No. Based on, we're shouldn't stop working with the two permits that, appear to be in compliance. Personally, I think it should be just a permit that we have a problem. So that's, no.
Okay. Moving on, new business. No.
Hold on, the question is, who's going to review this and actually measure this out? And we've gone through that exercise a couple of times already. And so, do we get and require them to have another presentation? Did this coverage, was this done by a surveyor or was this?
Yes. This is that's what I asked last week. I said we needed to have it on a survey, not just the landscaper's drawing. Even though the drawing was purported to be based on a survey, I told them we have to have something definitive, and that's why they sent this. So this in particular, if you, well, hold on, it's not up on the screen. This in particular is fairly easily verified just by measuring the driveway and looking at these other areas.
And the issue where they added this additional parking, so-called parking in front. Do we want to address that issue separately? That was building without a permit.
Does anybody have any opinion or discussion on that?
We have any documentation that was done?
Bob, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know. I would have to talk with Anna. I know it's not in our new system because it was done. I don't know, I'm gonna ask Paul. Paul, when was that work done? A year ago? Sure. 2 years ago?
No, you're.
Okay. So that was done about a year ago. I'll ask Connor to research that and see what we have on it.
So I guess I'd encourage them to get back to us on all that information in time that either you can get out there and make the verify.
I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got the 6 points that we brought up. And I'll address every one of those. I'll do it by email either later today, depending on how long we go here, or Monday. And I'll make sure to copy everybody here. Okay. Next up is number 11, permit number 7, 1616 Lakeshore Drive. I'll bring that up.
Second divider, whoever is the attendance that they had on, did they vote?
Okay, I knew this one they are, and I'll ask the other guys who's here. Okay. And so this is a tear down in a new construction. It's 1616 Lake Shore Drive. At the last meeting, there were some issues with some items in the setback. Those have been corrected. So the house itself, unfortunately, I found something else, but I think we can get with the architect and the builder to correct it. So there were previously in this area where these, the stairs are right here, there were retaining walls built into the setback. They removed those. The prior iteration had items over in the setback on the, would be the west side of the property, and those have been removed. On the house itself, let me finish this one first. So, Paul, this is for everybody here, but for you in particular, and the architect. These, I wasn't paying enough attention. I see after you did this, corrected this with the walls on the east side, that you are planning on some type of soil retention and changing the grade right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse. It's on the east side of the property where it comes off the stairs. The dark topo lines. Okay, so
I don't know.
you know what, I think it's gonna be easier if I walk up there. I don't know how the hearing is gonna be, but maybe it's gonna be easier if I explain this one. I'll say it. So for everybody here, these guys, oh, I can't turn that. There were encroaching items on this side, west side, there were encroaching items here, the stairs were down here. So at the last meeting, we talked about it, so they've moved the stairs in here. And you can extend into a side setback up to 48 inches with at grade stairs or walks. And then there were retaining walls and planter walls here that extended into the setback. They removed those, and it's been replaced with a soil retention system to have this basically earthwork down. But what happened after I sent the email off to Paul and said, you know, everything looks good, I found two things. Number one, it looks like you're planning on doing the same thing here with soil retention. You can't do that. These are the natural, these topo lines that are existing past 106, you can't alter the dune. So you can't do this work. The house itself can go, but you can't you can't change the dune down here. This has to be left in the situation or in the condition that it's in.
And put back then into it because we have a septic field that does go into that area
You'll have to, the septic field will have to, you'll have to return the grade to the,
to what it was.
right.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, as you can see on both sides, if you significantly change the grades here, the dunes over here are gonna be affected by what you do, and we have ordinances that prohibit destruction of the dunes. Basically, that's probably the most simple way to put it.
And you have to maintain the continuity on adjacent properties. So if there's something else happening down there on the lower left.
Yeah.
And that's changing, you know, the actual.
Well, we were tying in on the east side here with the
Right, but it's,
the contours.
I mean, we had a, I don't know, 4-hour meeting yesterday about this, which when I looked at this yesterday or this morning or whenever I did, this jumped out at me and I was paying attention more to the house. So it doesn't affect what you're doing. It just affects what you can do out here. Okay,
So as that dune grows, which it obviously does over time, is there anything in the ordinance that lets you take it back to what it was so it can just continue to grow
no,
and become a big berm?
right. I mean,
Okay.
if you look at every property up and down Lakeshore Drive, except for probably 5 or 6 that haven't plowed the dune down,
Right,
they're protected. So our meeting yesterday, we probably wasted 2 hours with 4 individuals who have plowed the dune down
right,
on numerous occasions. And their biggest complaint is that the sand's coming up on their property.
right.
You know why the sand's coming up on their property? Because they plowed the dune down. So that's hence the reason for the order.
Yeah, okay.
I don't understand the contour lines in the lower left that are adjacent to the property.
They can change they can change this.
Is it changing? Is it still gonna be in relation to the property adjacent?
Yes,
Next door,
yes, it
yeah,
is.
I can't see this because I don't have my glasses. Well, here, you put my glasses on, I'll read you what the total.
These all line up with current topos to the
So-
adjacent property.
This line is, well, it's hard to see it. I can show you on the screen. As I mentioned before, each one of these lines represents a 1 foot either rise or drop in elevation. So this line is the line here is at 599. This line is at 591. So they're dropping 8 feet here to maintain the
Okay, as long as they're keeping it relative to the adjacent property.
right.
And where's the natural organic water mark on there?
I may not show it.
I see some reference to it at the bottom.
You know what? It's not on here, Bob. It's
on the-
for Lake.
Yeah, there's an overall site plan that does show it.
I'll pull that one. So the last one we have is 591. And the 584 is what the Army Corps came up with. So that would be lakeward of what we have here.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm confused. What are the topo lines that are
These,
out to the lake?
these,
Then you got the.
that's the existing.
That's the existing line.
The light lines are what's existing.
Okay, but as we bring those in, there are topo lines in there. Are we all putting those?
No, that,
No, this plan called to alter the entire front of.
Oh, right, okay, so we're gonna leave it the way it was.
Right,
Oh.
that's what we're saying now is, you can't do that.
Okay.
But what about there, they want to leave it back to the beach?
There is a path to the beach now.
Okay, so those dark topo lines on the right are not happening.
Right, we're gonna ask them to, or we're asking them now to give a drawing to us that takes that portion of the work out. Okay?
Do we need to see that before we do the project? Is that right?
Yeah.
There's one of them. You look at this one, this shows, so this is basically the same drawing that we just looked at, except this drawing goes further north, or further lakeward. Find the 584. See the space between these two? This line is the 584.
So coverage is definitely not an issue.
Right. We asked and they corrected that previously. There's one other thing that I went to. On the elevations, we talked about this after the last meeting, Paul. On the elevations, you've got it. This is 27 feet. This is the street side of the house. So that's the elevation from Lakeshore Drive. It's up on the screen right now. And you show the 27 feet here, which meets the ordinance. And then on the rear elevation, I looked at all the elevations. This is a maximum of 33 feet in the back. And because I don't have the drawings to scale, what you have here, I can't remember what I added up. But we just have to make sure that this back is 33 feet. So I think
It's 33 feet from the existing grade.
it's 33 feet from your finished grade that you have. It's 33 feet from here. See my,
I thought the ordinance was existing grade from the measurement from. So you come out to basically a hidden area and the grade naturally goes back up to where it was.
so wherever you're digging, wherever your foundation is tangent to the grade, you measure from there to the ridge line.
Right, so that grade is up above that, so that the maximum above existing grade to the top of the roof is 33 feet.
Here, let me show you your elevation. That might be easier. Oh, this is the elevation. So from this point, which is in north west corner of the building, of the walkout, to the ridge, not the chimney, to the ridge, that limit is 33 feet. And when I add these up, I think you were, this might, I'm not positive, but that might be 27. Is that 27 or 26 feet? When you add up what you've got.
On Lakeshore Drive side?
No, Lakeshore Drive side is 27 feet something. But on the front or the lake side of the house, the maximum there is 33 feet. And it's not dimensioned here. All I could do was add up what you have here. And then I looked at what you have on Lakeshore Drive. This appears to be 8 feet. I don't think it is, but that was just the interpolation because I don't have a scale.
Right. Right, so we'll get to that 33. My understanding when I read the ordinance was that it was from the existing grade.
No, there's an existing grade, but you're tearing the house down. So that existing grade is no longer. Your new grade for this house is at your walkout. This is a door, right?
Well, it's in the walkout, I guess, when you then look at that from the 106.6 mark, that grade can't change. that is existing, and
Right.
that's the way it is.
Right.
So where the foundation intersects the sand here, because that walkout area is low where the grade is gonna be.
Well, then it's not a walkout. If the grade's above the door, I'm not following.
Well, because it's a pitted area, you walk out to underneath the deck up above it. But the grade that goes around that or patio is up at that higher elevation.
Right, but the walkout is, you measure that where your walkout.
Okay, even though it's behind a
Right,
wall.
if you're creating the grade to be lower than the surrounding area,
Okay, that's right, didn't interpret that. I thought, and it didn't matter because that grade was up all the way around it. This was inside that underneath the patio.
it's still, what we look at is where your walkout is, where your foundation or your walkout, your lowest level is tangent to the grade where it's at. That's where you start to measure, and then you come up to the 33 feet.
Okay. We're just at the lower roof.
Pardon me?
We're just at the lower roof.
Sure. And we talked about the elevations because I mentioned that they weren't marked in the last go around. But they're not marked again, so you need to mark those, and let's just take the other stuff off there. The berming,
Okay.
all right? Any other discussion?
Yeah, one question to that, is that patio level like a step down out of the first floor, like a 6-inch rising?
Say it again,
The patio, the outdoor patio,
at grade,
oh, when you step out of the building onto the patio, is that flush or is it a step down?
no, it'll be about 4-inch step coming out.
Okay. Step down, right?
Okay, what do you guys here for?
T-Tech, access 1610.
Are you Lex? Okay, that's actually not us. Didn't I talk to Lex about that? I thought you were using a native's property. And Lex said that you're using the town stock. It's a neighboring property, it's 3 doors down.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do that, that's the license agreement, correct?
You're using the town.
Yeah, so, they have we gave them a permit or approved a permit, I don't know, if it's the last month or month before, to put a spa on an existing deck. And in order to get that down, they have to bring it from the street. And I originally said that you have to have the license agreement, which was in the process of being done. That license agreement is now done. And then when I talked to Carter about 2 weeks ago, I think you told me that they were using a neighboring property. And if you're using private property, you don't need a license agreement. But then now we find out the neighboring property is the town stop 16, I think.
Yeah.
So in order to use the town stop, it has to be the license agreement, which Joy has to sign, and I think I have to sign, is that it? Or just Joy?
This needs to be approved, but
Okay.
make sure that the proper detail for what
So
equipment's gonna be used, what they're doing. So
would you just have to just give us your name and the address?
okay,
No, you have to do it now.
okay.
Sorry.
David Glenn Murphy. David Glenn Murphy.
Address is 1610 Lakeshore Drive.
And you would like to have a license agreement to use stop 16 to bring a spa down, and they don't use mechanized equipment. It's, I think they call it a sled. Is it like fabric or something?
It's like totally.
Like a giant size toboggan. They put the thing on and they drag it down. So,
It's pretty glad it stops at 16, until they get to the end, and you gotta go over them on the sand.
okay.
It's a barn.
Well, we'll put the terms in there. Do we know who's gonna do it, and then the license agreement is gonna be with the property owner who's gonna take all.
Christine Poles is the company that's putting it in.
So just as a reminder, the town council had given its approval that putting the licenses in the purview of the building commission, so then authorizing Joy to sign as long as we have proper information, including, making sure that they comply with any binding requirements, et cetera.
This is the first one of these we've done, so.
Sure.
This
is coming to original, many of them discussed.
Right, so I would, I'll entertain a motion to issue the license agreement with, or I'll make a motion to issue the license agreement or approve the license agreement with the proper company information and, necessary signatures and if a bond is required.
And the owner whose property they're using, does that need to be on it?
I'd have to ask Bruce.
What's the town?
I thought he said he's.
Oh, it's the town.
He's using his town property.
I'll second.
No, there's no issues with lot coverage or anything on this?
No, we already issued the permit. I was under the understanding that you were using private land. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign.
I'll just shoot Larry an email, I have an email address, and then I can circulate it.
All right, then I'll put you in touch with Larry and we'll get everything done.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your help.
Okay. Oh, no, you have to stay the rest of the meeting. What are you here for?
How would stop 30 and 3007 North Memorial, so you can stop and where you were?
Yes. We do, I don't think we have a site plan.
What is that, 3007?
3007 North Memorial.
What's the permit?
Permit 108.
I thought you looked for me.
Yeah.
I have to apologize. I'm old, so I don't see as well as I used to. Except I can see this one. All right. So a little history on this. 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, Carter stopped by and there was work being done at the house. So Carter issued a stop work order, and I believe that that's been paid for no problem.
He just paid.
Right.
But now, the issue is, there used to, there used to be a deck that is no longer there.
This is the deck. These are drawings for the deck. It's not the site plan. Didn't you upload a site plan?
I did.
Why isn't it the permit?
What's going on? Why did you start with,
Maybe we should have, let me do it like small.
Yeah, just, push the button. And then,
My name's Tom Bolak and I live at stop 30 at 3007 North Fork. I started work on my house. I was not aware that I needed a permit to work on my own house.
so good.
Permit has submitted,
I'm sorry.
permit has been submitted.
A permit has been submitted.
Does that include the site?
It does include, it's in there first, and then, Carter had requested a site plan and lot coverage spreadsheet, which I then also submitted.
And so that just got submitted today.
No, this was last week, I believe.
And our deadline, is what, 2 weeks, you give us a chance to look at this?
No, it's actually. A permit that's changing coverage is 30 days after the meeting that happens after the submission.
sounds like Easter.
Yeah, it does sound like Easter. Carter's looking for the same.
I'm not requesting to change the coverage. It's a same footprint as the existing deck.
Look, I'll speak to this while Carter's looking for that, so we can bring it up. The problem, Tom, is that that deck was actually built over the property line originally.
Yes.
And I remember when, it was probably when you were buying the house, that the neighbor to the west of you complained and said, how can you sell the house with the deck? And I said, well, that's a civil matter. That's really not a matter for the town to say that you can't buy it or that somebody can't sell it. So I'm not sure what happened when you bought it. So that you bought it and lived there or whatever. So when this happened, unfortunately, when you tore the deck down, the demolition of the deck means that you now have to be compliant. So compliance, I think that's well, I know it's an interior lot, so that setback is 6 feet. And I think you can see, I know I've seen it. We'll just give Carter a second here. Okay.
If it's on, it's the acid.
Yeah, it's not one.
This is the ground level.
No, it's an elevator.
He took it out, so he lost any.
What did I say? Yes, it's 10 feet. Sorry. Where is this here?
Yeah, when we closed on the house, this was a big topic.
Right.
And we said, we're happy to correct the deck and bring it back within our property line. But with it being existing, can we replace it in the same footprint minus over the neighbor's property line? That was part of the closing, that agreement or discussion on it.
And that would be the case. Now that you tore that down, it's no longer the case.
Who was the discussion with, who's their discussion?
So it was in the real estate closing, and then it was, the question did go there.
To who?
To tell their due diligence.
Right, and that's what happened. So I don't think you called me. I think a realtor called me. I think it was one of the Gallus brothers called me and said, hey, I've got an issue here with 3007 Northmore. The neighbor to the west, the Battle family, was complaining that the house was being sold and there's something on their property. And I told whichever Gallus brother it was, I think it was Brady.
Yeah.
I said, Brady, that's a civil matter. That is not, the town is not involved in that.
Yeah.
So that's our involvement. Unfortunately, but let's just look at it. We need to find the survey. So, but when you tore the deck down, when you tore the deck down, there's no pre-existing conditions, so to say. So that means that the new deck has to conform to our ordinances, which Pete is correcting me. It's 10 foot is the side setback.
And even if we kept the footings with the existing footings on the previous deck minus the one corner that was over the property line, those all remained intact.
Yeah, that's not really, I don't know if I could answer that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that might be more of an issue to talk with an attorney maybe, and I'm not telling you that. I mean, Chris can't answer it, I don't think, because he's not your attorney, so. Did you get it, Karen? Here.
Is there a- We have a system walking on this.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, just almost.
While you're doing that, just to expand on, unfortunately, there's a nuance here, and I'm not giving you legal advice, but something for you to look at is it's section 154, 132 of the code. And it deals with nonconformances, which you had a nonconforming deck. Under that section, you're allowed to repair and maintain what's there. But by virtue of you tearing it out, essentially what you did was make a clean slate, right? Had you repaired and maintained it, it's a different story. By virtue of the way this building commission is looking at it is under the code, you've essentially wiped out the non-conformance, and now you have a blank slate of which your options are to be in complete conformance or to go to the BZA and ask for variance and justify what your hardship is. Not giving you legal advice, but probably not feel bad because you created there. What is your hardship other than you want to be where you were? So that's the nuance there. I'm trying to explain the theory of what they're kind of forced with, what the code says.
Okay, so here, this is the survey.
Correct.
And I'll show everybody here. So, this is Northmore Trail. This is the front of the house. This is actually correct. So north is up. So on the west side where it says lot 3 is a neighbor, the deck was, according to the survey here, 1 foot over the property line. And, so what happened is Tom tore the deck down and there was no permit. So there was no notice to the building commission that anything was being done. So now Tom wants to build the deck and in the same spot, except for putting it on the property line. And as I just explained, even the house itself, where it's, see this where it says 9.7 feet. That's the house itself is encroaching into the side setback. So without a variance, you wouldn't be able to put the deck up. So we would have to deny it. And then it's I don't know, Bob, maybe Chris said. So we will deny the permit. And we will send you an email that says the permit is denied based on whatever ordinance number that Chris brought up. And then that, if you want to appeal that, you can appeal that, our decision. Well, I'm not saying, I mean, the board probably, they could approve your permit, but I don't think that's going to happen. So they'll probably deny it. And then what you should do is fill out an application to the or a variance request to the BZA. And that is available online at longbeachIN.org under boards. You go to BZA or Board of Zoning Appeals, and it's a process. I'll send this email out probably, depending on when we get out of here, either today or Monday. And I'm pretty sure we have your email. And I think that's probably it.
I'll make a motion to deny it.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No.
And just to comment about BCA, you know, there's some reasons why the BZA can grant a request, and one is that we have some special need. Probably not. You know, is there something peculiar to the property? Probably not, but that can certainly go within it. I think that's going to be an uphill battle for you, particularly given the fact that, you know, this is a problem that you kind of created by tearing it down and then tearing it down, compounding that, tearing it down. So, you know, it costs like $300 to go to BZA. I don't know if this will work to you or not, or maybe just go with a small deck that complies. It's up to you. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, the second part of the order smells like that would be the only.
Yeah.
Just ask, we get access out of that.
I mean, that's, as Bob said, you make that case to the BZA. We don't, the building commission, under our purview is you either, we're pretty kind of pretty much black and white. If you are within or meet the ordinances, we can approve something. If you don't meet the ordinances, then we can't approve it. And that's why the BZA is there. They have the ability to, what's the right term, to give you variance from the ordinance. Because that's why they go. Okay.
And then that like alarm, like ask the neighbors and then kind of be right somewhere.
Right, it's a process and the forms are all on there, the forms are a little ominous, but you know, if you read through it, it's really not as bad as it looks. And you notify neighbors, I think, within 300 feet, right, Bob?
It is about a 2 or 3 week process.
Yeah.
3 with this.
Two, yeah, everything in order. The preliminary hearing, public hearing, and certified manuals within 300 feet, so.
Yeah. Or you could get an easement from the property.
Yeah,
From county.
yeah,
And that would, sorry, I think it was time, that would
no, sorry.
me going to her and asking her that easement.
You know, that's certainly something I think you might want to consult with an attorney about.
Sure.
Or talk to her and just say, hey, would you be open to this? And if you got an easement, maybe that would make your problem solid.
Can I ask a question? Sure. I didn't your vote, did you vote to? Is that gonna change your mind though? So let's say you wanted to leave this open and not move BZA, he has an easement.
Oh,
So, and I'm just looking from his time and cost.
yeah, what do you think about that? Do you think that,
Absolutely, I mean, I'm very close with county, I can listen to the doctor.
And
Okay,
well, he could leave them both open, right? So if you were, and I don't, I'm sorry, because I was.
yeah, we both, can
But you
we,
just said that ultimately,
All he has to do is be submitted.
does he have, well, I guess that's up to you guys. That's why I'm asking is from a timing aspect. Say cost, time, money, he could do all
if you could do that,
Yeah.
I think that would probably be your fastest way if she, you know, grants you an easement, whatever that is.
Okay.
And then, just come back to us. I don't, historically, we've not made somebody pay again.
Okay.
But what would have to happen is you would have to, and I'm not giving you legal advice, but I think from our standpoint, you would have to have that easement recorded and then bring a document to us so that we can see that your survey has been, is that?
Yeah, assuming you're gonna accept something like that. It's depending on the terms of it, right? Because if it can be revoked, and so he has a 1 year easement, for instance, now that would be conducive. It's gonna be closer to perpetual easement, something with addition of ownership. More versus some time limiter that could revoke it if they didn't like the color you painted it, for instance.
Yeah, okay,
Okay,
all right, yeah, if I could try that before we can discuss.
well, as Chris said, that's gonna help you time wise, that's probably gonna help you money wise too.
Great.
You can still pursue the other, you can still submit a variance request.
Yeah.
But you can work on both.
Okay. All right,
Thanks.
thank you, thanks, guys.
You got it. But, come up to the.
Yes, architecture 1616. Jim. Oh, sorry. There we go. John Spalding, the architect for the Doyle's at 1616. Referring to your chapter 154 appendix B, figure 6-1 and 6-2. This is where we interpreted it, the height. It says lowest pre-construction grade elevation. So we read that as the pre-construction grade. And that's how we came up with the elevation.
Okay, well, I can pull it up if you'd like, but
I have it pulled up.
I'll pull it up and I'll put it on the screen and I can show you actually what the drawing is. I think I understand what you want to do is you've got a pre-construction grade that's maybe a foot higher or 2 feet or 3 feet higher than what your foundation is coming out of the ground. So you're going to come out of the ground here and you're going to walk up to a grade that's here.
You're going to step up.
Because you've dug a hole.
Correct.
But you changed the pre-construction grade. Your grade is now the foundation is.
Right. I mean, it's the same as if we were to put a window well around an egress window. That grade is lower.
That's correct. But the problem is, this is an egress window. This is a complete house at 0 grade. If you take 0 grade, what's the grade if you, without using the sea level? What's the grade when you walk out of the house? If we say, where's the 0 grade?
I understand that, but if we were to enclose all of that and had steps that came up that 2.5 feet back up to grade, then it would meet the ordinance.
No, it wouldn't.
Well, yeah, it would because you'd be inside the house.
Okay, well,
I just
you'd have to convince everybody here if you want to try.
I don't want to convince everybody. I'm just trying to interpret the ordinance the way that we read it, where it says pre-construction grade. It doesn't say post-construction grade.
Okay.
If it was post-construction, then
This is how we operate. If you came in and you tore a house down, just like what happened with the last guy that was here. So he took his deck down. So now he has to conform to what's here. So what you have is, I guess what you're telling me is the way that the house grade right now is 3 feet higher than where you're.
yeah, not quite 3, but
Okay.
So
let's say it's 8 inches. So
Yeah.
you don't have to argue.
right.
If your house grade right now is, make it easy, is a foot higher than your new house grade is lower, we're gonna measure from the new house grade, not where the old house was, because you torn that house down and you started a new house that's a foot lower.
And you're going to measure it from the lowest point.
Right, that's what the ordinance says, and that's what when you look at the drawing, which I'll pull up here, bear with me a second.
Yeah. So somewhere else in the ordinance, other than the illustration that you have, it states that?
You know, I can't cite you chapter and verse on the ordinance.
No,
But what I can do is explain to you how we operate here.
Okay.
And how we operate is exactly what I just said. If you are putting a walkout basement, we're gonna measure from where that walkout is to the top of the house.
right, so from final grade is what
Pardon me? I didn't hear you.
So the final grade is where we're measuring from. After construction is complete.
I don't want you to try to catch me in some term.
No, I'm not trying to catch anything. I just need to,
Okay,
I gotta go back to the client and explain to him, and so I need to,
but may I suggest something to you? When you go back to your client, this is not something that's new. These ordinances have been in since 1970.
Yep.
The ordinances do change over time. It's the responsibility of the architect, engineer, and or builder to conform to the ordinances. We're not telling you that you can't build a house.
Oh, no, and I'm not
the way you
suggesting
want
that.
to. We're telling you, this is what we have. These are our ordinances.
Yep.
And the design of that house has to be within those ordinances.
Absolutely.
To be able to prove it.
Yep.
If you want to get a variance, just like we told the last gentleman he was here, if you'd like to get a variance, we could certainly deny the permit, and then you could go.
Oh, no. We don't want to do that. No, I just need to, understand it so that I can explain it to you.
So hold on here and bring it up for you.
Are you looking for the code section or the diagram?
The diagram. I'll just what's up.
Yes.
I said you say it.
So And the second is one that we came in for it.
Here we go. For some reason, I don't think I can zoom this up. So this is the diagram, and this is what we use. This is the 33 feet from the grade that your foundation comes out tangent to the grade, existing grade. Well, I don't want you to twist my words. Your foundation is coming out of the grade, your walkout. That's where you're going to measure from there up to the ridge line. So as you mentioned earlier, what that means, you've got a 12-12 pitch on this roof. So
Yeah.
in my mind, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to change that to maybe a 6-12.
No, we've got 3 3/4 12 pitch on that roof. It's gonna have to hit.
Oh, I thought I saw 12-12.
No, that's on the garage part.
Right.
That doesn't affect the overall height. All right, so this is the finished grade. So these illustrations then shouldn't even refer to that. It's that other drawing that you have is what should be referred to. Because that specifically says final grade, which makes sense. I mean, it says finished grade. So 27 feet above finished grade or 33 feet above which is your maximum height on a walkout.
As you can see, these were highly engineered drawings.
I did the shade.
All right, well, thank you. That clears it up. I appreciate that. All right, so we can get the height crap down, we can get the contours,
Right.
we'll stay on. So are we, no permit yet, we've got to resubmit, so then it's another month?
Well, I thought your building height was 33 feet because we talked about it last meeting. And when I looked at the drawings, I saw that the contour was a problem, but I expected that the building commission would approve the house construction with just changing that you would send us a site plan because the house didn't change. But then I saw that you didn't include the elevation heights on that north side.
Okay.
And that's a problem. But I thought because we addressed that previously, that it was at 33 feet. But then when I interpolated it, looked at 27's here, and now you've got the same line on the other side, which was at 27, 28 feet. I knew you only had 5 feet left.
Yeah.
And that didn't interpolate with the 27 from the front. So I think it's 8 feet you've got to move. That I may be off there, maybe it's 7 something.
Right.
But, it's got to be within the 33 feet.
Yeah, all right, well, we'll make that change. If we get that change back to you, is there a chance for a special?
It's, what happens, and that's what happened last time. It depends. This whole group has to be able to come together, and there's notice requirements. So if you could get the stuff done and back and request a meeting, then we send an email out, we find out what are the available dates. And then if we can get it before this meeting, the problem with the last time was we couldn't do it up until like last Thursday. It made no sense to. Right.
Too close to the action.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Thanks.
Is that next part of the weekend?
Okay.
Thank you.
Number 12. Oh, this is 2319 Flormont. The permit, it's the hall residence. The permit was issued on 5/10 of 24. they'd like to have an extension to 5/30/26. So the permit is expiring in a couple of days, and they want an extension for a year to 5/30/26. A little background on this. One owner had a problem, cut around and you were actually more, they had a problem with a couple of contractors, so.
Yeah, those contractors, they was doing work that they shouldn't have been doing, inside the Vegas lines. He's trying to get them,
So that was the owner's fault, it was the contractor's fault that, things got delayed.
Well, I think when you talk to the contractor, he says the owner's fault, or the owner says it's that. So, you know, I mean, one guy says he wasn't paid. Ken, you know how that goes. Yeah, there's his story, her story, and there's.
Let's not, blame the owner.
the people is also large, they started to start with 1 year.
See,
And then they go on. Yeah, it's different than that. It is just, it is water. Get that.
Okay, guys, hold on. We have to say we're here.
Okay, our ordinances say you can give them a year, the original permit's a year. Then if they apply in time, they can get an additional 4 months, no free. At no fee. And then if they want to go beyond that, they can get an additional 6 month extension at 50% of the original permit fee. So if we're just on the 1 year mark, they can request a 4 month extension right now for no fee. Yes?
I'll make that motion.
one second,
But if they don't make the form, they can get it done now, then they're up for, I have to, 6 months at 50% of the original fee.
That's what I said, 150.026. So it's a little bit.
And the guarantee you get that?
Yeah, it's a request.
So,
Maybe it's.
because I mean, if I was a neighbor, I'd be saying, you know, is this construction project ever gonna end?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why we put this in.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Both same sign. Okay. 3028 Mayfield. That is a whole permit that was, there was an issue, I'll give you a little background on this stuff. There was an issue with this because they wanted to put a pool in their back, or in their front yard.
What about item number 14, permit 110? Driveway, according to the agenda.
I'm before that. I'm in 13.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, there's two names.
So 3028 Mayfield and, where was I? Oh, so they went to the BZA and the BZA said, Bob, I don't know what they came back here and, or Chris, maybe you can.
Was that one of the addresses?
Yeah, the address is on Mayfield Way, but in
Yes.
front of their house is on.
Made a determination that no variance was necessary.
Yeah,
So then they came back here and the building commission agreed and said, okay, we're gonna assume, or we're gonna say that you can put the pool there. So the pool permit was approved, then a landscaping permit came in. Let me get this information up here. You didn't say it, she all right?
Pardon me?
Is Anita all right?
Yeah, she had a guy coming,
Oh,
a
okay.
tradesman coming that she had to leave for.
Is he registered?
it's not a problem.
Okay. So they sent a drawing in and it was very difficult to tell. I went by the property and it was very difficult to tell what was being removed and what was being added. So I asked the architect and the contractor to give us a drawing, and Bob, you can probably remember this, we started asking for these after we had that one that was done so well that we could actually look at and see what was added and what was removed. Let's see, why isn't this sharing? I guess it's not going to share two of them. So this is what they're adding. So they are adding 827 square feet. Which is, he's got the three colors, but this is what they're adding.
But they're removing 834, right?
Right, and they're removing this.
Which part of the removing?
I thought it was up, but it's. Like I've said before, I have to start bringing my granddaughter to these things because she can do this much faster than I am.
Was this on iWork? What you're showing?
Yes, it is. It is on iWorks. So this is what they're removing. They're removing a retaining wall in the Moore Road side. They're removing a walkway here. I don't know what this is. And they're removing this walkway and enlarging it, and then they're moving this section.
Couldn't they put that on? I mean, you
Yeah,
have to superimpose these. Figure out-
well, I don't know if you followed the emails. There were 4 emails where I asked for this information, and it came back with 20 colors and different things. And I said, it's really a simple request. We just want to see what you're adding. We just want to see what you're adding and what you're taking away. We want to see opportunity. So ultimately, they're in compliance. That's the bottom line.
And we're sure that they're in compliance.
Well, based on their drawing, yes, they're in compliance.
So you understand what they're taking away and what they're adding.
I do,
Why can't you just show us at the end of the process what the property's been look like with all items on it? And we don't have to worry about things out substance.
well, that was the problem, Pete. What was given to us was this drawing, but with a lot of gingerbread on it. And it was too busy, so to say. So I asked them to give us a drawing. This is what they're gonna end up with. Is this will be the site plan. What they'll end up with. This is a new deck. This is a widening of this walkway. And there's a pool. It's 9 by 15. I don't know if you call it a pool or not, but
Is the pool
the pool, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. To share this. So this is what they're gonna end up with. There's a walkway that was down here. I would prefer to see this on one drawing, that what I'm removing in red and what I'm adding in green maybe, but it didn't come that way. I figured after the 4th time, this is what we're gonna get.
But up at the very top, what is that?
These are planters. That's the grade steps. If you look at these,
Okay.
yeah, the grade steps, so these are planters and they're not removing those. They're removing a stone area here. If I was more sophisticated, I don't know, maybe I could.
I'm like you, I kind of like to see it all on one. I mean, I think we gave them a very favorable reading, decision at the BZA. But right, but it was favorable. And I just kind of like to make sure we're not being more sorry. So that's my feeling. Plus, you asked multiple times for what you wanted, and you're kind of.
So what's the coverage on that?
It's 40, they're over now. They went from,
Okay, well, when this is done, if this is done, what is this? Is it supposedly 35 or less?
No, it's 40, we're at 40. Hold on, let me bring it up here.
But it is less.
It's less.
It is less than what it was.
10%.
Yeah.
If we can believe their numbers in the drawing, the drawing is somewhat less than clear.
Wait,
But you have a stand.
so the pool, is the pool gonna do, is the pool covering the ground that is at one time empty?
Yes.
And then it's not, that doesn't qualify for 35 or something. I mean, you should put there. They're rearranging them just because they come up with another, it's like the demolition being told that out. They paid something down. Now they'll put something in, that this is over 35. I mean, that's what we get involved in the details here. But they have something that's in place, the way it is, and they cut it back, fine. Or if they build over something, like a deck over in-ground back, or a patio, fine. But here, they rearranged a lot, demolished some things, put new stuff in. That's 40, that's got to satisfy 30.
Well, but our ordinance does let them do that.
How?
Well, the ordinance doesn't say you can't just rearrange. The ordinance says as long as you decrease your coverage or you decrease your non-conformity, you do it, right?
Yes.
It doesn't say you can't rearrange. I mean, I understand what you're saying and I kind of agree with you, but unfortunately, we are
So
so,
what did we just get this other guy?
well, he does that now.
He got rid of his.
He rearranged. What, well, so if they had gone and taken all this coverage out, they would be at zero, but they haven't done that.
That's the evidence.
The difference is, unfortunately, the 3007 property, without saying anything to us, came in and tore everything out. So he's at zero. Now he's got to try to put it back, and he can't meet the ordinance properly by putting it back. These people are coming to us and saying, here, I think hold on, let me share this.
To Pete's point, that's giving the data to close to the gray area where you, for your future changes or anything about your comprehensive plan on. That gets to be, what is the limit there? Because overall, conceptually, there, you can't increase your non-conformance, and your non-conformance is that they have an overage in lot coverage. That's the non-conformance. But at what point is that shuffling under there? Is it here, are you taking it out so that you're not conforming, you can still, for instance, let's just say you remove some studs. And you went from 40 to 37. Okay, you can still have your non-conformance of 37 and build within those confines, but if you remove. I can see the point where you start getting that gray area, of piece is the.
They're at 41.1% right now. Their proposal is to be at 41, oh, wait a minute. At 41%. So they're dropping 1/10% of coverage.
But how would you even write that as an ordinance to that? And say this is judgment call. It's pretty bad. That's the size of it.
Well, I understand. I guess I understand both sides of the coin, and that's what people are now doing. So they understand that they can swap coverage so that they can do exactly what's being done here. They've taken it to the farthest degree that you can. They were at 41.1%, they're coming in at 41%.
And they're also not creating or expanding non-conformances. So for instance, moving stone from one side or not going into setbacks or those kinds of things, right? Or adding volume and setback, expanding or creating some other non-conformances.
I think by our ordinances, we have to approve this.
Yep. I'm sorry, what?
I would move to approve.
I'm sorry. What do we do?
She moved to approve.
What she said, what you think by the ordinances that you guys have to approve.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye. Opposed? No. What, okay. Okay, so that's good. Permit, we're on to number 14, permit number 110. Now I've forgotten what this was.
Says driving.
Okay, smart, right?
He was trying to drive.
Oh, yeah, this is this was the one, they said remove and replace driveway, but they're. In the permit application, they said they're straightening the driveway, so it's not really remove and replace. They're changing the configuration, albeit minimal.
So, and that the same vote we were just in.
Well, to me, I think we need a site plan. I think if they're changing stuff, we need a site plan.
Okay,
Okay, so if they decide to move the driveway on the other side of the house, that's okay, even though they're non-conformance.
Well, I don't think they're, this one is.
Well, I'm just using that as
I don't think so, right? I mean, that gets to speak on like the one example is tearing down the little house that is there, right? The people live. Yeah.
So from what I think you're asking is, we better look at it, or we want a site plan, or we better look at it, make sure it's removed and replaced. Is that what you're asking?
I think so, because it says here, saw cut driveway and street and garage to straighten. So they're changing the configuration. And to me, and I don't care how, I don't know how much it is. I think the site plan to see.
Okay,
Shouldn't we have a site plan for anything to change the footprint?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
that's actually a requirement, so we'll send that out. Number 15, I have to recuse myself as my own home. I can tell you what the permit is for, or I'll bring it up so you can see it. And then Bob or Pete or Joy, if somebody wants to take this.
This is good. This is, yeah, this is 12, 2 months.
No, it's my own home.
This is the renewal and replace pool, right?
No, the pool stays, there's concrete or bad concrete slab around the pool.
Yeah.
And it's cracked and failing.
But there's no change in the.
The exact, what's coming out is going back in. There's no change.
And there is no non-conformity. What I said, well, it doesn't make any difference, there's just. Replace and repair.
Right. And I didn't take it out with.
Anybody have a question? Otherwise, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Vote.
Okay, thank you. Permit number 122. I will tell you, it's difficult to, did you see the pretty slide? No, it's just that, people ask me, a lot of people think that I just say yes and no, and I said, no, I'm just.
It's the adventure.
One 22.
Every month I have to refigure out how to use it.
It's one of the easiest things to do. I found, and actually Carter and Hunter told me about it. I can bring my screen up and show you after we talk about this. It makes it simple. I was probably doing the same thing you're doing. I'm hunting and pecking to go all over. It's real simple. I'll show you in a second. They're putting in an 8x10 by 6 foot garden shed in their backyard. The issue here is the shed has to be in the rear yard. Right now, it's in the side yard. They're gonna have to move it back. Oh, sorry, I thought I was sharing. Here we go.
What about that little,
1%, it meets the 1% rule.
what about that little shed that's attached to the corner of the house? Is that coming out?
Where does that,
With the structure on the left upper part, see a little square that?
oh, green?
Is that coming out? That's another shed. It says shed, existing,
It says existing shed.
so can you add two sheds?
Okay, no, I didn't catch that. You're right. You're allowed one shed. You're allowed one accessory structure
Okay.
or shed. All right, so I'm gonna go back to them and tell them that the shed has to be in the rear yard.
Is this a she shed or?
I don't know. I didn't ask. You can't ask that.
Yeah.
So you could add each shed and she shed.
Is old shed being removed? Okay,
Oh, and then, this is near the south property line is Lake Claire.
no,
I'm looking at it.
no, that's another one.
Oh, that's
That's that's the next one. Okay, permit number 123. All right. So here's how this works. Really easy, Bob. Just a second.
Did we approve number 14? Driveway, the drywall, I couldn't.
No. We're gonna go get a site plan from them and find out if there's any coverage change.
Or 123, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull this up. So,
Did you get a site plan? Because I didn't.
so if you, let's just go into, when you come in, Bob, and you go to permit management.
Yeah.
And you hit permit management, then you select you can have all open permits, you can have whatever you want. But the easiest, if you go to open permits, what you'll see, at least on my screen, is you'll see all the pendings in the middle. Down below is waiting payment, and up top is online submission. What you're probably used to doing is where you get on and you see all permits and you have to wait through them. But then to select an individual permit like this one, we want to look at permit number 123, go to advanced search and just type in 123, and then just that permit will come up.
That's it.
And that's the one that we're at now. So their permit, well, I'll bring it up here.
They're gonna have to combine their lots.
Pardon?
They're gonna have to combine their lots.
Oh, they're not combined.
No,
Okay, that was the question I had. That's, I think I put it in here. Shed can only be 1% and needs setback. So they're asking to put a 12 by 22 by 6 shed, which is a very large shed. If they combine the lots, they will meet that size.
I don't know if they'll meet the size, but you can't put a building on a lot that doesn't have a main building.
Okay, so then they sent, to Joy's point, we don't really have a site plan.
Yeah.
Hold on here. This is what we got for a site plan, and it's, I didn't realize what Joyce said, as Joyce said. So if they own these two lots, they're not combined. You can see there's two tax numbers. So what they're gonna have to do is combine the lots and give us coverage numbers.
And second,
And more than just dividing it for tax purposes, dividing it into a one legal zoning lot.
and then the other issue is that some property line is Lake Blair, and that may bring other things into
Yeah,
play too.
yeah, and it's also,
So we need to see where we're going to put the shed, because
That has to be in a rear lot.
right, nothing is where important that wants to be Lake Blair, so that's protection, all those issues.
Well, let's say combine it, shoot a draw line along the, where the deck is.
With that,
And whatever that cross, it would have to be lakeward of that one. That would define the lake, the rear lawn, or the rear, yes, rear yard.
and they've got the property line out into Lake Blair, they don't own Lake Blair.
Right, this is just a beacon shot. These aren't accurate.
So we really need to.
Okay. They probably had one from when they bought the house. All right, so we'll need them to combine their lots to legal lots. And we need a site plan, and the shed can only be in the rear lot.
And what's the deal with Lake Claire? Is that's similar, that brings in view protection and view protection.
Okay. Anything else? Right, we'll move on to 126.
I can't really tell what they want to do here, but I can say that it clearly shows that.
I'll bring their permit up. It is hard to tell. We met Tom Dahl, Mark, myself, and the representative from Shoreland Hills met with Dan Healy. I'll bring the permit up here so you can read it, and then well, I don't know if bringing the permit up is worthwhile because it says the same thing that.
I understand River Swan must be added over the pavement grade.
Right, so I'll explain it on their survey and then I'll go to an overhead and walk through what we walked through. So this, see where it says beach access? That's stop 31. This dark outlined section is 2.5 lots that used to be 3044 Lakeshore Drive. The Shoreland Hills Association bought those 2.5 lots. So what they want to do, and I can show you in the overhead, or let me just do this before we go to the overhead. So does everybody understand the property, what we're talking about, looking at?
And there's no residence.
No, there was no residence. The residence was there, but it was torn down before they bought the house. Or, I'm sorry, bought the property.
So that's west of 31.
That's west, right, that's the 2.5 lots west of 31. There, west of this, where it says half lot 10, and then where it says block J, there's a house there still. Yeah. So what they want to do is there are, I'll zoom this up so you can see it, and then I'm going to go to the overhead, the actual site conditions so you can see. This is existing pavers right now, but it was the old Holmes driveway. There's an existing fence that they put up. We gave a permit. I think it's a split rail fence, if I remember correctly. We gave them a permit to put that fence up. This is a large survey, or this is like the total survey. This block is square, and one of the dark lines is the actual property we're talking about improving. This is stop 31. This is the other lot that the Shoreline Hills Association owns, and this is that house that we built here. Let's go here. This is their concept of what they want to do. This is not that street, this is somewhere else. They want to put, this is Riverstone. We're moving back and forth. Parallel to the street is Riverstone. And then these are rocks put there so people can't park. I told them they can't put we told them they cannot put the rocks there. Because number one, plowing, number two, it's dangerous to have rocks within 4 feet of the street because people can't, if the car comes, they can't get off the street.
Well, somebody had a bike or.
Right, especially in that area, as everybody knows, it is very congested.
Plus, I don't think the permit application there, mentioned the Riverstone, did it? Like, you got that?
You know, I didn't read, I read it once, but then I didn't, when we went down there, I didn't really.
I certainly don't see it on the permit application. But, you know, that's okay. Because all just for the development. I mean, coverage obviously isn't an issue.
No,
Well, that's town property.
Right. Well, but it's like that.
It's 50 feet wide and a true, right? So that's town property.
But you can put, a little parking area there below.
You can't do anything that is unsafe.
Right, so the Riverstone would be safe.
for some reason, I'm not able to pull this up tighter. So this, see this little, I'll walk up and show you. I don't know why I can't zoom in. Maybe that's it.
You get,
So this is the lot. These are two lots here. This is stop 31 public access. This is the other lot they own. This is an existing deck. This is concrete. So this is this little round gray area. That's existing papers. That was the old house driveway. Right now, this is a mixture of stone, grass, just dirt, whatever. There, see, you can see where the shadow line is. That's where that split rail fence is. So what they want to do, and this is a drain here, and that's I think it's a 10 or 12 inch culvert, and it goes here and it goes out. You can see where the erosion happens here. So what they want to do is they want to put stone here. We told them it had to be at below grade. And that they cannot put big stone in there. And it cannot be, they asked about riprap, which is, anybody seen the Stop 17 project or 18 where the town put the drain swale in there? That's, people call that riprap, that had the hand-sized stones, limestone. And we told them you can't put that there because you can't walk on limestone with those big chunks of limestone. Right, or right, if you rolled into that with a bike or somebody fell off, it would hurt, well, it hurt anyway. So they want to do that here. And one of the reasons they want to do it is they think that by putting stone here, it's going to alleviate a lot of the water that comes down here. I told them that's not going to work.
Water
So if the water comes down, this drains this way, this drains this way, this drains more road. So this gets to be pretty, there's a high velocity of water that comes down through there. This is a straight 10 or 12 inch culvert pipe. It's angled here and comes out under the deck. And, so there's two reasons. They want to make it look better, but they also think that allowing some of the water to drain into this area will lessen the flow to the drain. I don't think that's going to happen. It's not, but that's on them. This is not a public drain.
They want to dig it out and fill the whole stone, river stone.
They want to take this, they're going to dig this down probably 6 inches and then put some filter cloth in it, and then put river stone on top.
That can't be too good for our road, can it?
Well, no, it's fine, it can roll.
Right at the end of the road.
Right, it will be at the edge of the road.
We'll cut the velocity down, but it will pull at the same time.
Right, it's, well, what will happen here is this drain is gonna still take the same amount of water. They think that it's gonna, this is gonna allow water to percolate in here, and it won't, that you're not, you can't, you'd have to have an engineer design some type of structure or some underground drainage pipe. But
You're shooting
That's
at.
right.
no, because this drain is a private drain, the town, when Chris wrote the MS4 ordinance, there were some things in there that we went through.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's not down.
yeah, Tom was there with us. He's okay. He's okay. with it.
Bulbs,
Pardon me?
it's like bulbs.
No, we told him, I told him straight away, you can't put anything there that's gonna feed the plow. It has to be lower than the asphalt or at the asphalt level. And then Tom also explained to them that Chris may know the answer to this. I don't know if it's next year or within a couple of years, they're gonna redo Lakeshore Drive, which is a pretty substantial project. That, as everyone knows, that's a 50-foot wide easement. So we explained to them that some of that may be gone.
Well, under the section 154, 102, it says in general, accessory uses such as public utility installations, ground level walkways, driveways, curbs, mailboxes are permitted in the public private.
Yeah.
So what is a ground level wall? Don't know what that is that, are we considering that?
It is, one of the concerns was golf carts, and they have some signs up here that say no golf carts. And I asked, Chief Swislak specifically, you know, they can't park the carts here, right? He said, no, we can't. And then the representative from Shoreland Hills asked, well, will you police that? Mark said, you know, we can't take it over.
They can't police there, so they complain. Our ordinance says that the owner of the lot has rights to leave their name, has rights to the front to that section of their lot, and they can prohibit people from parking. Okay, so and all they have to do is call and say, do this. So that's already. Now, do they plan to do any other development of the spot?
Well, as I already said, they want to incur the expense of trench drain. The only thing that'll take the velocity and still give you, usability on the surface.
Right, and you know, they have this concept of, or notion that, remember the picture I had up before with the stone, the big ball was on? They think that because that was put on a residential street, it's just basically taking the half of the street. They're thinking that that's gonna help dissipate the water from that drain. It's not. The only way they have to,
That's what you say, yeah.
right, they have to go to somebody and have an engineer calculate how much water is coming down there. But that's really not for us to say because it's a private drain, we don't maintain it. And they're gonna have to figure it out. They did ask about, could they do something down here with stone coming out. And I said, that's something you have to have an engineer. They're trying to stop the erosion from in front of where this pipe dumps out. But that's not our,
They're going to that money and they'll be disappointed to move on.
we explained that to them. We just said, I told them myself personally, I said, I think you think that this is gonna stop the water from coming down underneath that deck. There's just too much water. It's, so what they're asking us is the permit to be able to do that work, and that's what we're here for.
Doesn't seem to be a good idea to insist that River Rock be at grade, not below grade, not above grade.
That's absolutely, and I just said to Dan Healy, I said, you're gonna have to make sure that either Carter or I and Tom inspect this as you're doing it to make sure that we don't go down there and end up with, I mean, River Rock can be up to this big, but we explained to him, because this guy across the street, Rolls Ford, that's what we're talking about. You know, it's less than this size. They're trying to discourage people from parking, which means bigger stone, but you can't, I mean, we don't want them to put something in that's gonna impede traffic. And impede people walking, that's what concerns most of the time is if a car comes whipping around the corner and stop 31, somebody's got to move on the street.
So do we, it's our problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's down right away.
So we can specify what type of stuff goes in there. We don't have to act. We'd have to tell them, this is what's going in. Same, I mean, that's it. If they want to put something in that's against us, that's a problem. So we tell them what to put in. As far as any future development down on the beach, our ordinance is clearly stated, we can't do any development on the lot, and we tell others to this, unless there's a principal residence on that lot. And we prevented people from putting in patios and seating areas and all kinds of stuff, because there's no residence. So what's ever being done there is being done at our approval. They can't do it. As far as that drain goes, I mean, they're responsible. We've got drain issues, I would say issue solutions like at Stop 22, right? That's what should be there to stop that. Or a berm put in somewhere to channel some water, to prevent it from running over. I mean, you know, they have this idea that they own this part of the town, and they don't. And that brings up the other issue. There are still signs up. We prohibit signs up on any at any time unless it's approved by the town.
They did get a variance for the sign that's,
Yeah, I don't know which.
I had to go back. They applied for variance.
What was the basis of that?
But while we're on this subject, you know, it clearly shows here, beach access, stop 31. How can they police that and keep people from coming onto a public access?
You know, that's something to.
I want to be able to tell the residents of Long Beach, you can go down to stop 31 and you can access the beach. What do we have to do that?
You guys can do that.
I mean, they stopped me and bodily stopped me from going down there.
Well, I think that's the problem if you wanted to make that problem, because they cannot do that. And I can imagine that their security company that's privately retained, they probably should be educated. But I mean, it gets back to access. I mean, Pete brought this up years and years ago. And getting into that, I know it's not related to this application, right? In terms of that beach access at 31. This is the lots next to it. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
The other part is exercise what is believed to be the right sensitive. I mean, there's a way to get it determined. You file an action and request a declaratory judgment from a court based on the title history that exists, based on title history and assert your rights. That's one way. Another way is to assert your rights and go down.
Yeah, so if people ask me, I'm just gonna tell them they can go down there.
Well, we should have a sign that says.
Oh, yes, I agree with you.
They don't have to come to people who want to.
Yeah,
Well, I guess, I mean, one option is, yeah, at some point does the town approve of an appropriate sign and put it in the town, right?
Yeah, people just intimidated and staying away from there.
Well, that's what I said, I mean, they physically stopped her and I would certainly rather be on one side of the case than the other if someone made a big deal. I don't think anybody has made an issue.
yeah,
When
right.
it's a matter of fact, we want to reach the peace or agree.
Well, I mean, you just do that. We put the sign up, not them.
Yeah,
They have a right to use it, it's dedicated to them to use the beach. Didn't say they could put signs up, didn't say they could, you know,
Not that they're exclusively on.
exclusively.
Well, I think part of the issue that has come up is, are there signs misleading as they, because there was a variance, and I don't recall, it's been some years where they got a variance to do certain things. However, I think one of the complaints also played is their sign misleading, to say public or private, something to that effect.
I'm sorry, Kenny. Yeah, and going back to the drainage issue, is there some municipal responsibility for stormwater drainage? Being that there's an intersecting street dumping on to Lakeshore Drive? Or is that just? That's no, and the reason that the town of Long Beach has, we're our own MS4, I think everybody understands it. So the town of Long Beach has its own MS4, has a permit. It's a 5-year cycle permit in our 3rd year. And the town owns, I think it's 9 outfalls, which this would be considered an outfall of the town owned. Those 9 public outfalls that the town owns, we're responsible to maintain them, clean them, and make sure that they operate properly. There are, I'm gonna take a stab at probably 30 or more private outfalls, which isn't one. And we don't have a responsibility for that. We don't have a municipal stormwater or sanitary sewer system. You guys do that when you're there, but the town, the rest of the town doesn't have it. So
Yeah.
I think your question is, are we responsible for the water that comes up? Good degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's right.
That's right.
Thank you.
So right now, that stop 31 is owned by the town, but it was dedicated for the use of.
Well, no,
Not exclusive.
No, I don't think it was dedicated for the use. It's like other stops. So at stop 29, stop 30. If I live in stop 30 or if I live in Shoreland Hills, I can go down to stop 30's beach.
Yeah.
So this stop 31, is the same thing. It's part of the town of Long Beach.
Right.
And the contention was,
Well, the
the
contention is, there is no valid basis. I don't want to speak for them, but the base, if you look at property, well, taking that water, it shows that Shoreland somehow became title owner by Beacon, and Beacon isn't the end all be all for title, right? At some point, something was done to reflect that Shoreland owns that. But there isn't anything in the chain of title that indicates they own it. Other than somebody made that change in designation, right? But there's 2 schools of thought. One is that that's the titles. And there's nothing to show that Shoreland Hills owns that as an association, right? That association was created at some point. And homeowners, whether they do or don't control that, that's there, right? The other alternative argument is that the subdivision, when created, there's language that talks about access to the beach for anybody who is a Shoreland Hills owner. The town of Long Beach owns property. And so another argument is we all have access. So there's 2 different ways to look at that the town of Long Beach residents have access to that.
Well,
They pay for the stairs, right?
That's a stair coming down.
Yeah. So, that puts the they pay for stairs and.
Well, Shoreland Hills paid for the stair, but
That's a legal nuance is whether everybody goes down to the issue, whether there's access and what, I'm sure you're right, right?
well, you have to allow access to public, what do you call it, public property, which is the public.
Trust.
The public trust. You have to allow access, period. You can't, and we had the issue when that came up, well, can somebody walk across through somebody's yard to do that? And we decided, no, we're going to enforce that kind of stuff. Because we had enough stops for people to get to the beach. But there is, in some state or Supreme Court ruling, that you can't prohibit access to the public trust. And that would basically prohibit access for the long stretch. How it applies to the beach, not, I can get it. But that's one of the basic things. The other thing is, the dedication did not say that no one else can use it. When my understanding was when it was allowed to be brought in, it was these people, Shoreland Hills is outside, much of it is outside the town boundary launch. So we guaranteed that they could have access to it. Where normally they might not. And we don't prevent anybody from being around any beach. But that's the kind of issue. There's nothing that I've seen that says it's exclusive of their use. And when you get them, they've allowed to be constructed. Once again, this stuff has to do, they constructed, what do you call it? Decade on part of the beach that wasn't dedicated, or what do you call the things that go down to the lake? Public access. The roads, the stop that's not into the lake. They have only like 20 feet wide. They truly, I think they're only 20 feet. They've already constructed stuff that is on a piece of property that has no principal residence. And that's part of the decade. That should never have been allowed. I mean, we can draw that right in. They put signs up there that are not. The town controls the signs. I mean, individual property owners can only put limited number of signs. And they basically got crap plastered all over it. So, and the only one that could put a parking sign up is the chief. The chief can designate where no parking signs or that kind of stuff. So the whole host of stuff that just we've ignored, the town's ignored over history, as you call it. And maybe it's the time to resolve. Right?
Well, then you have the town council, right? We don't really have a role for the town council.
No, but with the stuff on the Solo River stuff, we're the ones who specify what goes in there. Now, then they have no say on it. That's our property. And the only provisions that prevent people from using that right away is the strongest one is if it's unsafe in any way, that's not one. I mean, there are Supreme Court decisions that allow people to put swimming pools. That doesn't mean they have exclusive right to it. Because if the town then wants to go back and use it in some way, the town has the right to do that. So, I've said it, but we've got a lot of issues that need to be resolved out there.
Or, we should say. Yeah,
Well, the issue is going back to whether you're
the permit.
the permit and also they're asking you to use that fence, right? And then put a banner. Is that part of this?
Yeah,
The issue is whether you want to allow that. Any of this, right? The river out there.
so. Hold on, let me see, maybe I could do it rather than going up there, I can just do it on here and bring up, I should have closed that up.
You know, we were able to that stuff that we limited dedication of that.
Dedication.
He did some. When this issue came up last time, we got him. Do it for rights, right? Is that no dedication of Shoreland Hills It's in, it's gotta be in the.
While I'm looking for this, they have an issue which they brought up, which doesn't, I don't know if it enters into the conversation about what Joy was talking about. They have people, because, you know, in Shoreland Hills, they didn't have an ordinance that prevented short-term rental. So because they didn't have one, they had to allow it, because it's part of Michigan City. And their short-term rentals advertise private beach access. It's kind of funny stuff.
Yeah, well, we had.
But then they're telling you what you can't come down.
Put a parking meter. Please.
Oh, it's right.
Oh, the last day long.
Yeah. So they're not, so in Long Beach, right, because they're west and stuff. Yeah.
Well,
Well, they charge a fee too, right? And there are actually properties that have been sold and then certificates as part of the deal giving access.
Yes,
And I pay a certain amount, and then they allow people who are outside Shoreland Hills, if they're contiguous to Shoreland Hills, and there's a different fee structure depending on whether you're an entity or a private owner. It's $500, I believe, like if you were an LLC, for yearly access to the beach.
So they're selling those?
The association.
and
Joe. Even have, sell, you know, time to like Martha and Larry, pay $1,500 to be able to access their beach for a year.
For people that live in Long
but the town, and so is, I live in South Florida, so when I came from Shoreland Hills, don't shoot me. But when I bought my house, they were buying their first piece of property, and they came to people that lived in South 30 in 29 in Long Beach and said, hey, back then, there weren't many stops at a good beach, so they said, hey, we're gonna buy this property, would you kick in? So we said, sure. So we bought into it, and then, you know, it's, I think as Chris said, it's actually attached, it says on our deed that we're part owners of whatever.
Those are the east lots, right? Or is that?
No, that's the original one. Then the east lots, or no, that's the east lot. Then the west lots, 5 or 6 years ago, they came to us and said, hey, would you kick in more money? And we said, sure, we'll do it, because we use that beach, or my kids do a lot. So it's it's a deeded thing. So when I sell my house, whoever buys that, because we put in 10 grand in it, then we end up with that.
But I think that's, so your situation, again, not to get too deep into this, yours is a little bit, because you have ownership interest in these other lots, not just what they've sold you as part of that is you can access the stop 31, right? Legit or not legit, however,
Okay.
but you have an interest, and the Shoreland Hills can buy and has purchased other lots. That's legit, right? You own that. The association owns, but what they did was give you beach access.
Right, so then when I pay my $100 a year, and as you said, then there's other people that pay $500 a year, they give them a tag, so then when.
Yeah, that's a whole different voluntary, right?
Right, so, because there's, my kids come, they take my tag, and if they don't have the tag, they say, you can't come down here, and Colleen just wants past them, but.
But the
I can still.
The bigger issue is, for instance, an association for property to be subject to, right, there has to be a declaration, covenant and restrictions that are recorded. And unless someone subjects their property or the covenants and restrictions in place when they purchased it, those are meaningless to the average person. So them, they didn't make anything, right? You did. Now, there are people around who they say you can't come out, and that's getting back to Joyce. The issue is, they have the authority to do that. Should a private company be trying to enforce something?
Well, and that's what happened. So it's stop 29 and stop 30. A lot of my neighbors didn't contribute to it. So when they went on to stop 31, they tell them, you can't come down here. If you live in Shoreland Hills, what they say is, no matter if you contributed or not to this extra property, you can use that.
Well, because that's, right, that's the law.
So what they're telling me is, or my neighbor who didn't throw in the money,
Yeah.
you can't come down here. And I think that's what you're talking about, Julie. And everything that we got told, and that's what Chris said, you know, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's either, I don't know if you guys remember, they came to us 6 months ago and wanted to enlarge the deck. And then at that time, the advice from Chris was,
Show proof of ownership.
show proof of ownership, and they have never done that. And then,
Yeah, their own property.
Well, and the other thing is, let's say that we're not even going to the bigger picture where first of all, you can't show that you own that because at some point, based on what has been reviewed, somebody just made an entry and changed and put ownership to the shorelands. But notwithstanding that issue, Long Beach owns, the people own a sliver of property. And so Long Beach residents arguably get to walk down, right? Because Long Beach owns that triangle by virtue of just, if you wanted to just take their argument, you have to be part of Shoreland Hills. Okay, we all, everybody will.
So I guess the question is it enough of a problem as to what then goes through the homework on it?
Well, we've done a lot of it.
Yeah, so it's
Right, I
already.
mean, the issue is, having search of whether you do board or you search. And talk to them of who we have to stop.
I think, but I guess this is my opinion. I think that Chris has already done most of the town of Long Beach work, but nobody's challenged from the other side to say, hey, we want to tell you the deal, because I think they probably understand that they don't.
No, we need a person who goes down and says, there it is going to be on.
Well, that could be Chris too, right? I mean, that's, I mean, but I do think that, well, not that, again, I would never encourage anybody to reach out. It's very disturbing that Julian, that somebody has stopped there physically. That's a problem, right? And we don't want to reach peace or put our police officers in a I don't know, tough spot, because that is their, I would caution. More like their private security company. You know, there's actually an appeal that just came about and has been in play for quite some time in another town that's west. And they had their own private police department. You know, they were enforcing it, they were hiring it, and they can't do that. So no, it's way, but I think that their private security company would be hard pressed.
The private security company is 16-year-old boys.
Yeah, I mean, what are they actually going to do and stop and legally put people at risk? It does, I don't think they really want to go down that road. So back to your point, it's going to take people going down there and exercising their rights.
So the other thing they want to do is, if you see this kind of brownish spot, you can see my mouse is moving back and forth. That is a old landscape timber wall. It's clear. And they want to take that down and make it look better by putting in its place, sitting the anchor railing is that the deck is on, or that's on the deck, which is 2x2 spindles.
So is that,
We clearly do not allow construction on a piece of property that does not have residents, period. There's no, I mean, we can't say, well, go ahead and do that. We can't do it. Okay.
where's that railing at? Where's, because if I look at Google Maps, there, when I pull it up.
Oh, I know that next picture.
Well, that's Google Maps. If you plug in 30,
Hold on, let me get to Google there.
That's,
You're looking at modern, I'm looking at Fred Flintstone.
Larry, that's still in the town right away, right?
Yes. Don't I get to like Street View or something?
Yeah.
How the heck do you get to Street View?
Did you plug in the address, if you go into where it says search and just type in address in there? Type in 3102 like. Just like that. Yeah, you just like, it reads things.
So what they want to do is this. In this spot right here, they want to take this dirt stone grass out and put river stone. They want to do the same thing here. This, I don't know if I can zoom up. Yeah, I can. So see this landscape timber situation here? They wanted to take that out and just continue this railing so that it looks, it's the same railing that comes down.
Well, at least one. And I don't know if they have a variance or not, it's whether that should even be there, they might have a variance, I don't know, so that part.
I don't think they have a variance for that. I think that was just done by somebody came down on the weekend and put that up there. And they asked again about a porta potty, and I said, you're not gonna be able to put a porta potty, and they always ask why, and I said, because people don't want porta potties next to their homes.
But the permits, the ordinance and the sport. Same bit of the future of that, like what the.
So what they want to do with the permit is put this, see this where the bike rack is, that's pavers from the old house. They want to put stone in here from this point down, and then the same thing here.
Okay, let me repeat, that's our decision, not theirs. If we want them to do that, we do. And we do the specs.
And the reason is they think that's gonna keep people from parking there?
Well, no,
And drainage.
their original, I don't know, I mean, what they said to me was, hey, we want to, there's a lot of water that comes down here. And that pipe drains underneath this deck, and I don't know.
Goes under the deck and out on.
It goes out on the deck, so there's a lot of water that comes out there, so after heavy rain, it washes out some of the sand and creates a trough or a spill being in the sand. Their initial ask when they came to my office and sat with me was, hey, we want to put stone in here because we think putting stone in here is gonna lessen the flow that comes into this drain. And I explained to them that it will not, because just putting stone and filter cloth there isn't gonna allow. I'd have to do the calculations, take the square foot by 1 inch rain. Let's say it's 6,000 gallons a minute or something that comes down. That little bit of stone is not gonna take 6,000 gallons a minute. It could be 10 times. And then I said, if that's the only reason you're doing this, I don't want you to be disappointed. I didn't tell them that you can't do it or whatever. I said it would have to come before the building commissioner. So then they talked about putting riprap here when we met down there. And we said, you could absolutely not put riprap because that would prevent people from walking on it. And I think this little sign here might say no carts. And they don't want people to park cars here. And I said, well, then don't put stone, because people are gonna park cars there if you put stone.
Parallel to this type of thing is in the town, and we've done this several times, if pools of water come in front of somebody's house, they've typically gone to town and said, look, I would like this here, Steve's not stuff. And the town has agreed to put a driveway, something to do. But it's the town that controls and says, this is what we're gonna do. All we're gonna do is solve a problem. We'll be the ones to solve it. So if we're gonna do it, we don't issue them a permit, we just do it.
Yeah, it seems like, so we're gonna, plan is for us to challenge the ownership of this property. We'd be foolish to let them improve the property. Right?
Well, they're not even talking about the beach stop. They're not talking about the beach stop. They're talking about the other property.
Yeah, they're talking about it, that's it.
That's,
And it'll be underground.
yeah, you're.
But you
Yeah.
it's what you get to dictate.
So Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is our claim for jurisdiction over this, drainage is based on a 50-foot road easement, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, nobody disagrees with that. They understand that it's the town's property.
I understand.
Well, if you're riding English bike, tiny tire, remember these big little popular, you hit that river rock. That kind of cannot work very well. So actually, it's sort of a safety issue even for.
I think so too. I think it's town property, and if it's not gonna be of any advantage to us,
Yeah.
and it's not gonna work, I think we deny it.
Yep.
You know, when I looked at partially, so it's not the signed copy, so it may not be follow, but in 2021, they received variance for their vacant lots, which is the wetlands, right? And part of what they offered as a concession was to remove. They were allowed to put non-illuminated sign that reads Shoreland Hills. And they were supposed to remove any and all references they offered as a concession to remove any references to private beach or any other signages.
We need to see what those signs are. And frankly, they agreed to remove references to private beach. Then it's, having these security people down there is really a violation. Right?
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah, they've got private beach on this front sign, it says private property, and this sign, it says private access for SHPO.
And that might be dated because there is a porta potty. I don't know how many years ago that was, right? So these may be dated approval things, but it's something worth saying because that may take away the variance, right? They might give the authority to rescind any variance.
I guess I understand more about what you guys are, your concern is, and just as we've talked about with other things, you give an inch, then all of a sudden the inch becomes 10 feet, and now all of a sudden going back and it's trying to figure out how we stop it, right?
Well, I think it's difficult to agree to give a building permit. First of all, people improving and doing accessory things that something when there's not a primary structure is probably a issue. Two, to give them a permit to replace something that is already there legally is also. To allow them on their dime to put a rock down there to your specifications probably isn't a bad thing. They're not asserting anything because again, you get to do, even by the town's code, within the public right of way, certain things, those are all allowable. But you get to dictate what happens. Otherwise, you get to put what you want to in the public right based on your own.
60 feet of epic rated trench grade, 16 by 16. How's that? That's it.
They won't have nothing.
Or you change the code while you're working on the parking to allow parking against 13 cars. No, I'm not creating any antagonistic, but there are lots of issues that exist.
Any more discussion? Bob, was that a motion?
Motion to deny.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Both same sign? Okay. Any commission comments? I don't think anybody's on. There's nobody on. That's not. Nobody.
You said that, that we were all stop 22, so somebody at that property there.
Yes. Right, so what happened at stop 22 was, I don't remember what day it was. It was one day last week. Zach, one of the park board members, called me and said that somebody was running equipment up and down stop 22 public access. And I said, okay. He said, did they have a permit to do that? And I said, no, the building commission cannot give anybody access to public property. So he said, okay. And then he called me back 5 minutes later and said, hey, I told these guys that they can't do that, to stop. And he said, they gave me a hard time. So I said, okay, Zach, I called Carter and told him to go do it, but he wasn't. He saw my call come in and he hung up. No, I'm just kidding. So I called Zach back and I said, I'm headed out. So I expect, because these people had given Zach a hard time, I called Morris Wistek and I said, hey, I'm going out there. I don't know if there's going to be a confrontation. Would you send another street officer out? So he did, and it was Matt Farley. So I got down there and Matt was there and Zach was there and I asked them what happened and they explained to me that Zach asked them to stop and they didn't. And Matt Farley, Mitch, Mitchell Sites, yeah, I get them all good. Told me, well, I told them to stop and they wouldn't stop. I started getting me emotional over time. So I went over and two of the guys didn't speak English. I said, get the whoever speaks English. And he came up and he started explaining to me. I told him, you can't do this. And he said, well, my boss said it was okay. He said we had permission. And I said, well, the permission would come from my group. And I said, well, you don't have permission. So I said, you have to stop. And he started saying, I don't want to stop. And I said, well, here's the deal. If you don't stop, then this guy behind you will take you to jail. So they stopped. We found out that number one, they obviously didn't have permission from the town. Number two, that contractor wasn't registered. The other contractor working on the site was an installation contractor and they weren't registered. So, Carter went the next day, Carter, and issued a stop work order and 4 citations or 6, I can't remember, 7 citations. So the work is still stopped because they have to go to the town to ask for access. They also, our suggestion was that they go to the town and park department with a proposal to repair what they did. And that hasn't been done yet. I think they have paid the fines, I'm not sure. So that's what's happened at stop 22. That's why there's no big one.
So did you say they have paid the fine?
I think they have.
Except for the one concrete contractor, which is not going to be doing the job. But the owner paid into their fine. Okay, so that's an issue. I don't know the answer to, but when there's a violation, like for no building permit, somebody builds, we find the homeowner and the contractor. Yes.
Yes.
So what happens if the contractor, Uncle Jimmy, that doesn't pay? Who's on?
That's exactly what happened here. I don't know.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, the homeowner paid their share because you're fighting them for having a non-licensed person. The issue is cost benefit wise. You track that person down and.
Okay, but it seems like there's a gap because now, somebody's not paying the additional fine. Probably this contractor was not working at it, so they're gonna pay, right? So
He's not working. He's not working because he won't register. He's not registered and he's not prepared.
it was, okay, so we got a $1,000 fine against him and a couple $100 fine for not registered, and he already did. I think we find a way, we have to find a way to resolve those types of situations, like turn it over to a credit card. To a credit card, or somebody who collects bad debts, or something like that. We've had situations where contractors say, screw you, I'm done. We never, move on. Because.
Well, the problem is, it's Rivera Concrete Solutions. So I tried to even get an address, and there's no address.
Okay, but he's got a truck, he's got a license to run the truck.
I didn't get a picture, I took a
Okay,
picture.
that's not, I'm worried about what he didn't do this time, I'm talking about what we. This is not the first time we made contact with Jesse Dawn. And we always hesitated because, well, we didn't want to get somebody pissed off, credit card company track. I didn't contract track. But what's the tone here? I mean, it's something that it would require an ordinance, I guess, change to do that is how we collect these funds.
I think, and Chris and I talked about this briefly, last week. I think the town does have a process to collect, but I think there's also some issues that I don't know if this is the right one to get into of what our fines are and how we collect them. I think that's probably where we should leave it at this point.
Well, I think we should, to Pete's point, we'll look at those, fill in the gap and how we handle, just like you were adding some language to, when we discussed, right, to make sure that people are properly acknowledging the responsibility. So that's part of it too, Pete, is putting that on that front end. And then, yeah, if the town decides to take in the small claims, make recouping legal costs and that aspect, but making sure that the code sections are one that the gaps are taken away so that we trade out that gray area to people who can away with that and two, and then actually taking those actions and making sure that our ducks are in a row, paperwork so that is all there that supports.
The stock remains damaged, right? The stock remains damaged.
Yes, it does.
Is there any daily fines involved?
Well, there are. It's yeah, we don't have, at least that I'm aware of. The car minimum, we got into two. We don't have, at least I think under, or I should say under our building stuff, we don't have a destruction of public property. Would be fine or citation that we would use. So we'll say 154.269, whatever, and that's for working without a permit. Under our building stuff, maybe there isn't in town, there's something that we can do that's destruction of public property. We just have what we call an administrative citation, which that's what we issue. So Bob, I don't know if that follows our 500,000, whatever that goes, 500, 2,500, 7,500. I don't know.
Well, so it's May 9th, and this is when people are gonna start going to the beach, and so
Right.
is he obligated to fix this?
Oh, he's absolutely obligated to fix it, and he said, and he would.
Yeah,
He's looking at landscapers to do the work.
Okay, I mean, we should give him some time.
And we told him until he complies, that he won't get his stop work order.
And he's gonna work above the sea.
Yes.
How's he gonna, I assume he did this because he needs to get some somewhat heavy equipment back there. He's got,
Well, it's just like the guy that wants to bring it on to him, he's gotta have a license, he has to go weekly.
but his license agreement, his work is above the seawall. He can't go down the beach and get it done. He wants to go right between his house and the seawall.
I'm asking this, I'm not saying this is a statement. I don't know that I told this individual that the building commission can't give you permission to use public property. We have a license agreement that allows you to bring a piece of equipment up and down. But I don't know if we have anything, or does that work, Chris, if they want to use it? But all day long, they can go back.
That's, what why we need to know what the scope of the work is and what equipment. So, yes, it could be. The issue is.
They're concrete out around the building, which is in right.
So is there a possibility that the town would allow them to do this at the public stop? I mean, I would hope not.
No, I think they would have to go down and stop 24 and come down the beach and get the license.
Right, but that's not doing any good because the work is all behind the scene. Right?
Well, to Joyce's point, if they would bring a Bobcat down, stop 24, come down to 22, pull up to the seawall, throw stuff in and come back out 24. That's what you're saying.
It's done, yeah, because this is close. Probably what it's all.
Okay.
Okay, one last thing, have we decided what to do about the stairs on the beach?
I don't think.
Stairs on the beach, I mean, I've made several trips along the beach, taking pictures of stairs that are in violation. And we've got to do something about that. I'm gonna do it now. Now we need to do it next meeting. But so we're 2 or 3 that were in violation. They build stairs straight out. They're not.
Yeah, it's more time goes on and it's like, well, when would you do?
So I've already solved that.
Now it needs stairs, it needs stairs to get up to the beach.
Yeah, and so we heard.
What's that?
Because the sand is all coming back. Oh.
I mean, everybody's stairs are very, being and I walk the beach the other day, there, it's gonna see on any stairs around the world.
Then maybe the ground's not so, so. Don't late changes.
Well, that's exactly right, Bob. And that's kind of what our meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
What was really about. What can you do, what can't you? Our meeting, we explained everything, and Chris actually had the most important ordinance that I did someone this. You can't remove sand from your own property. You can keep it on your property, but. What was really difficult yesterday for some of the attendees of that meeting was to understand that they created their own problem and they want to keep recreating the problem. And obviously, I don't know what's going to happen at the town council level, but the ordinances were in place so people wouldn't do that. And there were people on the call or on Zoom that said, hey, we agree, we didn't fire sand down into the lake. And we don't have sand blowing up in our yard, so, well, you there.
Yeah, well, the folks who want to build a path through the dune, they're gonna end up being just like the people who have the sand blowing up in their yard. I just can't believe they don't see that.
I guess yesterday kind of turned into a situation where, and I'll take the heat for that, I shouldn't have let those couple of individuals monopolize so much time, but the reality is yesterday was not a situation to be either for or against. It was just to let everybody talk.
Pretty low and affordable.
Yeah, and the for and against is really, I don't know if it's even you guys, that's probably the EPC, I guess, I don't know.
Would the people that had the bulldozed property with the most profit to allow them to create a forward from that blown up sand to remedy their wrongs of whatever did the work? Is that an option?
Well, it's not allowed by.
Well, I mean, if it's gonna resolve and put things back to a stable condition, and it's proven people that have maintained it for that, I think the people are actually for.
So what happens,
To the stable condition.
Right. there's, so, and
No,
that's what I was explaining.
That's all.
But that's what I was,
3 years, they don't want to.
that's what I was trying to explain to them when he asked that very question. So we said to you, okay, you can go and take your sand that's at 100 feet off the street and push it to 120 feet off the street. You're going to create another 3 or 4 feet high area. The problem is that sand is gonna blow right back because they didn't stop the reason why sand blows, which is the ground grass and or some other artificial means. And we don't, as a town, allow any artificial means, except for we've allowed snow pits to be installed. The one individual, we refer to him often was Safari. He went to the expense of putting bluegrass. And, I mean, somebody brought up, I have a nice yard and, you know, I paid for all this landscaping, which everybody does, you know, you do, Joy does, everybody. But part of it is if you want to stop the sand, you shouldn't have plowed it down in the first place. If you want to stop it now, you should spend money on planting martin grass across the whole front of your property. That's what's going to stop the sand naturally. And a lot of discussion yesterday was by a couple of individuals, well, the DNR doesn't care. That's a complete erroneous statement. The DNR cares very much. They don't have a law in place to stop it. And that's why when you get an answer back from which I presented yesterday, which was sent to me by the division, whatever she is, she said, according to X, she cited 2 laws, and she said, that is not under those laws. There's nothing to stop you from doing it. The town of Long Beach has in place rules to stop you from doing that. And the groups, if this goes to the town council, what will happen is the same dudes with Joy, you know the names of the other ones, I can't remember what they are, some of our nations, they will present their case to the town council to say, your ordinances are correct. And then the other people will present to the ABC, will present, that's, Chris is the lawyer. You know, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be who's going to present their case. But if they don't, if nothing happens, then nothing happens. I mean, they can't plow their stand down.
Not legally. Not legally.
Right.
That's the issue, because now everybody's going to cognizant and have seen some results with whereas those things weren't always in place.
Right. And as Chris mentioned earlier, I think, or somebody mentioned earlier about stop 31, Pete, maybe you can. They did something illegal. It stopped everyone by doing whatever they did. Well, what you heard yesterday was a lot of arguments from people that did something illegal and want to say, well, just because we did it before, we think you should let us do it again.
One final question then. So if somebody could present scientific data or proof, which we have, that reestablishing the foreground with grass planting and whatever temporary means, snow fences or whatever are put in place, if they could do that, is that something that would be acceptable for maybe an analog?
It's called rules.
We actually, that's what we did. We went to the DNR and we went to Save the Hills. And the reason we went to them was because I'm familiar with them. So I said, okay, this is what our ordinance is. And I sent them copies of our ordinances. And I said, this is what our ordinances say. What is your opinion of this? One of the individuals that I talked to at the DNR is an engineer for the DNR. And he looked through our ordinances and he came back and he said, this is what prevents it, this is what prevents it, this is what prevents it, this is what prevents it. That's what when we compile that list that we get out, that's what we use. So outside of somebody doing more research, maybe with the Army Corps of Engineers, it's a scientific fact. I can't cite, the scientists. The scientific fact that if you let martin grass grow, it stops sand blowing. It's a practical fact by looking at just what I showed yesterday.
No dispute at all. It's, if they say, and we see that the grass and the foreground saves the beach and all the problems, what we're saying is reestablishment of a foreground where it was lost They don't allow that, even though, if, oh no,
The town of Pelican establishments wording because it's a natural occurrence.
a reestablishment before there is progress.
I don't understand.
So you,
They might take that stand and push it out, instead of pushing it out into the way. Establish the boarding.
like what Aaron Deals is.
Can't establish a boarding without, you can't do it.
Mentioned it was part of sand, put the grass on it.
That's,
No.
that's, you know what, kid, try to, okay, try to, and I'm just, no, it's not, it's
not great, but Aaron Deals, it's a replenishing, right? That's.
so replenishing of the beach, if you go to the Army Corps of Engineers, you can look up and there's gonna be probably 6,000 pages on how to replenish a beach. Replenishing the beach is not what we're talking about. And it's, you can read 20 lines if you want, but what, if you were to take and take a roll of sand and put it out in front of your driveway or on your street or whatever, and just leave it there. Let's say you put it up 6 inches high or 2 feet, it'll be gone, right? So you do the same thing on the beach, it's gonna be gone. Right. The establishment, what happens in our time is naturally, the accretion of sand, the wind-blown sand, and it's actually in the ordinance that Chris cited yesterday. The establishment of the accretion of that builds the portion. If you want to help establish that portion and stop sand from flowing further upland, you can plant dune grass. Nobody would stop you from doing that. It will plant itself over time. And that's what's happened. It was the destruction of that for dune and dune grass that created this multi-crop.
Totally understood. Yeah. So what are we thinking?
If anyone, let me put it this, way. If those 4 individuals want to do what they want to do, they can go and hire an engineer and find out how high they got to do it and how much dune grass they got. They can bring that to the town council and say, would you allow us to do that?
Well, that would be a variance from the current board, right? Board.
Well, and one
That's
of
a bench, or change, I mean, so to save the drone all the other.
Well, it's not the guys that say the dunes. The say the dunes would fight somebody going from their seawall, pushing sand, even if they're building them out. They will fight that.
And if you're successful building that dune and you're too successful, then the next thing you know, they want to cut a path through the dune because they can't get to the beach. So, you know, I mean.
Well, so it's hard to get an example.
Yeah.
of What he did, your plan is working, right? And it worked too well for his need, for
Yeah.
that's another, that is trying to do the right thing. The law is it's when you have this, all their shit, right? When they build improvement from out there. But.
I make a call, adjourn.
Yeah. All in favor?